Hello, Margaret. Hi there. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Okay, good. I just want to make sure. I'm trying a new microphone. I want to make sure it was working. It looks like it's just you and me, babe. For now.
Oh, dear.
How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. I have a couple of announcements, but because I got a couple of events. Oh, dear. Where did you go? I've lost you.
I still see you.
Okay. Well, come on. And there you are again.
Ah, okay. What's going on?
It just likes to play games.
Oh, I lost your microphone.
No. It doesn't show that I'm muted.
Oh, there you go. I don't know what happened there, but you weren't muted, but you were just really muffled for a moment.
I was blipped.
Yeah. All right. Corinne's coming in. Yeah, it looks like I just read it in. Hi, Corinne. I just saw on Facebook today that Gordon Marr's mom passed away 2 days ago.
Yes. Yeah. And he is officially running for a second term, by the way.
Well, good. I officially support him.
Well, if you didn't get...
I have no problems with the stuff he's done. Hi, Paula.
Hi, Albert.
How are you?
Okay. I just sent you an email, but I doubt you'll get it. I'd like to ask Tumlin a question about the El Taravel not going into the Muni Metro once everything's completed. We're going to all have to transfer. They're only going to let the K and the M. Yeah.
Well, you're more than welcome. I mean, it took a lot of work to get that heavy hitter to come to our meeting.
Right. And you know, the reason they told us they were removing all our bus stops was to save 3 to 6 minutes round trip from downtown here into downtown. And now they're adding 5 to 10 minutes, making us change trains.
That's a very good point. Maybe you've kept track of all the arguments we've had back and forth between them. Been so many I have forgotten.
Well, that was the reason.
Hard time keeping track of them.
You got it.
All right. I see. All right. Lulu is here, and looks like Josephine is here. We're waiting. It's slowly populating right now. Josephine, what are you doing? Are you showing me? You're showing me a delicious dessert. That's not fair.
I haven't even had lunch dinner yet.
That's mean.
Hi, Margaret. Hi, Albert.
Hi.
Oh, hi, everyone else. Hi, Paula.
Hello.
Wow. People are coming in. So.
Yes. Let's see here. We got, people are really coming in now. Okay.
Well, Korean's restaurant looks great. Make me hungry.
Who's the restaurant?
Albert?
Yes.
Korean.
Hi, it's Eileen on 5936.
Oh, hi there. Hi, Eileen. Did you bring some people with you today for speaking to Mr. Tumlin?
Okay, you're breaking out. What was part of that?
I remember you called me, you emailed me to confirm that Director Tumlin's coming in today, and I was just wondering, did you bring some people with you?
Well, there are some people from Save Muni who was supposed to be here, and also I think Maureen Eliza from the Coalition for San Francisco Neighborhoods is coming as well. So there should be some people, and maybe some people about from the Ocean Beach area about the Great Highway?
Okay.
Because there's a joint
Is that
meeting
up for
coming up on.
discussion? Is that going to be an SFMTA thing?
Yes, it's Rec and Park owns the land, but MTA is responsible for the traffic management. And there's a joint meeting coming up on June 10th with the MTA and the Rec and Park about the Great Highway. Have you gotten has Pops gotten the notice about it?
I have not seen it. Not to say that I'm always on top of every little thing. So it
Remember,
could,
an email just went out late this afternoon. I don't know if you got it or not. From
I'll check on my phone.
Rec and Park sent out one and MTA sent out another one. So there are actually a couple of them floating around.
Oh, I only received one, and I'm on all the
What time was it sent?
lists. Let me see if I can find the one I got.
I see nothing for today.
Muni sent one at 4:02. Great Highway Joint Meeting.
No, I didn't get it from the president's email box. If you can forward it to me, that'd be great.
I'll forward this one. Eileen, can you forward the Rec and Parks?
It's already on there. There's, look in the chat.
And Eileen, did you get the one from Uni, or do you want me to send you that one?
I got both of them. Thank you.
Now, remember, we have people with different views about the Great Highway. I happen to want to keep it closed to cars. Other people want it open to cars. So
Yes, we actually took a vote on that a couple months ago.
yep.
And there was a
Okay,
posting.
and-
There was a posting a few days ago on Facebook, and I shared that posting on our Facebook page.
What was the
It
post?
was the one where it had 2 or 3 different languages on there.
Oh, you mean the sign they put up? Yeah, but the signs don't say I think they are proposing a pilot program to keep it closed, but I can't really tell for sure. And the sign just says, come to a meeting. Doesn't say what they're going to do, what they're proposing.
Yeah, that was a lot of complaint about that posting, that there was no detail what was
Yeah.
going to be.
Well, and it's only posted like at the very, Lincoln and the Great Highway. And I saw it posted at Noriega and Taraville, but I drove by and looked, and I don't think it was posted at every entrance or very many entrances.
Well, the situation is, if you look at the RP Rec and Park site, it just says an informational hearing. Anyway, there's two different, the Rec and Park is saying an informational hearing and the MT is saying about a pilot program. So they're not saying the same thing. I can't find any agendas from either one of them about what it actually is on the agenda.
Yeah, they usually
And,
Eileen, they usually put the agendas, at least on MTA. They used to put the agendas out on the Wednesday or Thursday before a Tuesday meeting. But this
This is
meeting
on
is
Thursday.
so it's likely to be Friday or Monday. I don't know. But I spent about 20 minutes looking for an agenda, but they did have a proposal on how they wanted to move traffic. It's a little hard to understand. I like getting the report that I can see. But how they want to reroute traffic was somewhere.
Well, just Albert, just to kind of segue back, yesterday was the MTA's Revenue Bond Oversight Committee. And I did go to that meeting virtually. And I just wanted to comment on that. I did not want to comment on the Great Highway.
Okay, well, we are at 7:07, and we've got 21 participants currently. And I see that Director Jeffrey Tumlin is here. Thank you for joining us today. Well, I don't have a video of you, but thank you for joining us today. And just to let you know, Wesley couldn't be here tonight, so I'm going to be multitasking. I'll be hosting and admitting people in and stuff like that. So I hopefully will be adept at this. But anyhow, I just want to say thank you all for coming. And I want to say that I want to introduce Director Tumlin and also Lulu Feliciano, just for being here today, and Sue Chin for also being here. These are some of the big players that have been working on the Terraville project. And I just want to have them come in now and say a few words with regards to the project and how it's going. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. I didn't know that I was going to be giving a presentation. I thought you were going to provide us with some feedback about how things are going.
Well, yes, it is. Right now I'm just not sure if you had any announcements you wanted to make, but with regards to Terraville, I know that it's rounding. Segment A is coming to completion at this point.
That's right.
We've had it's been a bit of a bumpy road, but I think that, a lot of stuff has been worked out, and hopefully we are going to move more efficiently in segment B. And that's really what I'm hoping for. I've got a couple of merchants here from Lower Terraville, Western Lower Terraville, and they'd like to speak to you. But I don't know if any of your team wants to make any announcements or make any statements before we have them talk.
Yeah, in fact, either Lulu or Suchin, would you like to talk about the schedule for Phase B, as well as where we are on some of the critical issues closing out Phase A?
Sure. First, I want to thank everyone here. Thank you for all your support and understanding when we are doing segment A. I understand that it's a little bumpy start, but we, like Albert say, we work things out. And I am very, very honored to be able to serve this community in this neighborhood. Your support and your feedback is so helpful to us throughout the construction time. So I just want to take a little bit time to say how thankful I am and how grateful I am to everyone for your support and your understanding during the last year of construction. Now, segment B, it had been advertised. July 1st is going to be the bid opening for segment B. We anticipate that we are going to go to the board for a recommendation for award sometime September, October. And NTP, we currently target to NTP basically first day of shovel in the ground after the new year. This is our plan right now for segment B.
Okay.
And I'd like to just echo Suchin's comments about gratitude for your collaboration and patience. These projects are always incredibly challenging, particularly the underground utility replacement work, which involves so much disruption and also a lot of uncertainty. That is very much the problem that we ran into on Van Ness, and we're trying hard to learn lessons from Van Ness when we're working in some of the city's older corridors where the utilities are not always mapped where they actually are. And we did run into some significant problems on Terraville that the team had to work through. Happily, all that work is done, and once the underground work gets completed, then the surface work moves pretty quickly. So I think segment A allowed this contractor team to learn a lot, both about what the mismatch between what the drawings show and the actuality of what's under the street, also how to deal with the challenges that we face on a street like Taraval that is both commercial and residential. You know, in many streets in San Francisco, it's kind of one or the other. So it's easy to schedule your work in order to minimize impacts on the people there. A street like Taraval is one of the most challenging streets for us to work on because there are residents who want it to be quiet at night and businesses who want their streets to be open during the day. And to that, we have added the complexity of shared spaces. So one of the things that our contractors needed to figure out is how do you work around shared spaces that protrude into the envelope that we had promised would be available to the construction workers in order to be able to dig up the street. So I'm also really pleased with the creativity by small businesses, by the construction crews, and by our project managers in figuring out how do we adjust the contract standards and support small businesses in every possible way that we can, particularly in this challenging time. And at the same time recognize that it's also a residential street. So all that said is, I think we learned a lot in segment A. Segment B is twice as long, but we're hoping that it will go more smoothly, including lots of other details that we struggled with, like the conflicts between the residential driveways and boarding islands, and crosswalks and signage for businesses, and supporting businesses during construction. But I really want to hear from all of you. What did knowing that all of these projects are really hard and disruptive, but the utilities do need to be replaced, and our train line does need to meet the Americans with Disabilities Act requirements. How did we do? And I'm sure you won't be shy. We need direct feedback. So how do we do both? What do we do well, and what do we do not so well that we can learn from for segment B?
Okay, thank you, Jeff. So what I'd like to do is let's work it from the top down. And what I mean by that is the 40th Avenue, we'll just work from 40th Avenue businesses on down to 47th Avenue, which is pretty much the last of the businesses that were affected. I don't think anybody that's participating today is above 40th. So first of all, Peter Monks from Far Out Gallery, would you be able to make comment right now?
Oh, sure, absolutely.
Be shy.
I'm not shy. No, it was a bitch. It was a hell of a time, and I know it was obviously compounded with the COVID, but it was an unworkable place for most of the time when I was there. The filth, the dirt. In the beginning, I tried to talk to some of the community people about some things, like there were people workers were parking on Taraval at a point when they were, and that was a big problem for a while. There were people, the workers had their cars parked on Taraval. So that, that's a non-starter. That's no good. In the beginning, there was also a couple of instances where people tracked in some of the grease and filth that, of course, this project produced. And at one point I said, could you actually maybe help us with these two items that were ruined by the thing? And there was no response at all. That being said, I know it's a hard problem. It's a hard job that you guys did. And, ultimately it's looking really nice now. But I hope that the new crew can get some of this experience and make it better when they go up there for section B, because it was tough. That being said, I'm glad to get Muni back on and get our street back in operation, and I'm looking forward to it. And
it is looking really good now.
Yeah. Okay.
Were there, Peter?
Yeah.
Just, to ask on the other side of it, was there anything that went right? Any takeaways that were successes that you saw?
Well, I mean, I was talking to the workers there, and a few things we were able to do. At one point, they were going to put one of the standards for the electricity for the Muni right in front of the door, and I said, there's no reason to do that, and they actually listened to that, and they moved it from where they were going to put it. But that's the kind of thing that obviously you have to work out when this kind of a big project goes into operation.
Okay. All right, good. Is Jenny from Sweet Passion Pastry here? I see some phone numbers. I know she said she was going to attend. Is Jenny here? No? Okay, maybe she'll join a little bit later. I guess who would be the next one down the street? Jessica Ho from
Yep, I'm here.
Northeast Medical Services. Hi,
Hi,
Jessica.
hello. I would say that it was definitely tough on our business, but because of COVID, we are actually closed for part of the time for that particular site. So I think in a sense it actually helped us, because before COVID, there was a lot of construction going on. It was really difficult to see patients. I mean, I was sitting just like in the back of the building, and you could just hear like everything vibrating. But I think pretty much when we reopened, a lot of the construction had been, at least the really hard construction had been done. So for us, it was really just like the debris and everything. But other than that, the parking. But I mean, that's something unfortunately Section B doesn't have to deal with, which is COVID-19 closing down your business. But yeah, so I guess if that's helpful. And I did go by just recently, and it does look really good now. So we're very excited to have the El Terravel come back. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Thank you. Thank you, Jessica. And I'm going to go to Doug, I think. Oh, no, sorry. Grace Garza.
Hi.
Down at
How are
45th.
you?
Hi, Grace.
Hi, how are you? Good to see everybody. I agree with Peter and I agree with Jessica. And in the beginning, before we got closed down for COVID, we had to talk to some of the workers about, hey, what are all these trucks doing here? We're having a hard time getting people in. But then COVID came over and took care of that because it shut us down. So I think that during that time, they got to do a lot of work. The workers did work with us because we got kind of loud. We had to let them know. And a lot of times when the sign said that they were working on that block, they weren't. And we would just tell them, hey, look, there's nowhere for us to park or for our clients. So they would work with us and say, they come over. If they really had to have us move, they would tell us. But a lot of times they went around our cars, so we didn't want to be jerks sometimes. And then we would move our cars. But, we were carrying in towels and supplies and stuff. So, we needed access. So it was a bitch. There was a lot of vibration, a lot of noise, it was pretty fascinating to watch them rip open the street and then shut it down and rip open the street. And it was, it did make for dangerous conditions when people were walking because of the opening and closing the street so many times, you could trip or you could fall. So it was dicey. But it's looking good now. And I asked Carla also if she had anything else to say, and she just agreed that, now that it's over, we'll probably forget the worst parts of it. But and we got some palm trees. We got some tall palm trees, so that was cool. Glad that it's just about done. I know it's a complicated situation. I don't do that kind of work, so I don't know the particulars, but it seems like they just when they found things that they didn't expect to be there, and then they had to kind of adjust for that. So, but I think for the most part, the guys that were on our block got to know us pretty well. and worked with us. And like I said, COVID shutting us down kind of allowed them to, work a little more and get most of the stuff done by the time we got back. So just wow, I'm just glad that it's almost finally over. So, and I think that there's a lot for them to learn. I guess we were kind of the guinea pigs, so they started down there first. So so hopefully they learned a few things also, and on how to proceed with segment B.
I think they really did. This crew was not really accustomed to working in a commercial corridor in a place like San Francisco, where you kind of have to get to know all the people, and like when to accommodate wish, and when you've got to explain no, we've got to dig all this stuff up, and there's no way to do that without vibration. So that's actually very good for me to hear, and I think that that's actually quite a good recommendation for the contractors.
Yeah, they really did try to work with us. They really did. Yeah, that's the key, to get to know them and talk.
That's right, and to build a trust relationship, because we know it is going to be hard.
Yeah,
All
that's
right.
pretty much it.
Thank you, Grace. Anything else to add there, Grace?
I think that's it.
All right. Next, going down the block to 46th Avenue, Doug. I know you're not currently there right now, and I hope you will be very soon. We miss you dearly, miss your tacos and burritos, but I just want to see what you have to add, your perspective.
Yeah. I want to take it back, I guess, a little bit farther, and talk about the beginning and the scars that are left behind, perhaps, and how this organization pops, and how the merchants had to really fight and claw and yell to get to the point we were with the Great Highway and the staging area. I mean, that was really unfortunate, and I think that's an improvement. I'm not, Jeff, I'm not even sure if you were there, if you were director at the time, but that was really unfortunate, and it all you start on a bad foot when all that stuff could probably have been figured out with a little more community and merchant engagement up front. I would also say, no offense to our project manager, but it was frustrating to not be able to get answers from a project manager that didn't seem to have information and wasn't maybe mature on this type of project. Maybe a more senior person or someone with a little bit more experience would have helped that whole situation. So just kind of taking it back to the front. I will say, on a positive, I do agree that the construction company did a great job of communicating. I had a restaurant outside, so I mean, there were days where people really couldn't sit outside because there's tractors and trucks and everything rolling through, and it's loud and obnoxious and and dusty. I wish there would have been a bit more communication on a little more of a dive down on those kind of things. We will get our general updates, but the general update is like, there'll be dust, every day. So we had to not sit people out there and field complaints and things. I mean, I understand it's construction, but I think with a stronger project manager, that some of those could have been probably solved. And here's one that maybe not everyone shares, but here's just my opinion. I think Terrible Street got worse. I think that when you put concrete structures all over a street, I think it changes the vibe of the neighborhood. And maybe one day I'll get used to it, but I certainly feel like we become a lot more industrial, and it's kind of changed the neighborhood. And we talk about building a brand on Beachside Terraville. I feel that brand's been a little bit changed with all those all the boarding areas, the massive amount of concrete that's around.
I do understand that sort of character point, and I always did kind of love the crazy informality of getting off a train in the middle of the street. Unfortunately, our safety and wheelchair accessibility rules have caught up with us. One of the things that I'd love your thoughts on is, within the context of the regulatory environment that we work in, how can we use the street in order to celebrate the unique character of each neighborhood? So, the landscape team tried to do that a little bit. I've wondered if we may have gone too far, given, particularly the unique character of Beachside and its loose, informal, it feels like this, small California beach town that's also, at the edge of this big city. Any thoughts? I mean, it's done now, but
yeah, it's done now. I mean, I think again that was like the community feedback portion, like the design portion. I know Elbert has a lot of strong feelings on the type of trees that should have been planted that weren't, and I don't think there was a chance for us to give that feedback. We worked a lot on the branding. We have a lot of collateral around Beachside Taraval, and it would have been nicer if we would have teamed up with the MTA to kind of figure out what that would look like. Sometimes it's as simple as a different color tile on a boarding area, or a different tree, or or maybe some of the decorative kind of pieces on there. I mean, sometimes it's just as easy as that.
Yeah, one of the things that we've been trying to do, as we've COVID has given us the opportunity to figure out how do we say yes to community groups and to small businesses, while minimizing safety risk and upholding all of our regulations. So the Shared Spaces program was it's been a year-long experiment in how do we get to yes in all sorts of crazy conditions. And it's given us, I think, a little bit more space to think about, we have more flexibility when we allow a merchants association to do something unique, whether it's, unique crosswalks or painting the street or putting in art. For the infrastructure that we own, because of our structural deficit, we have to be very, very cautious about the cost of maintaining special materials. What happens when they wear out and you can't, you don't have the replacement part in your yard. But if merchants or community organizations are willing to hold responsibility, I think we've created a new space for collaboration. So it's an invitation for further conversation.
Definitely.
Okay. All right, I'll bring up the last merchant coming up, which is Les from Parkside. Hi, Les.
Hello, how you doing? Good. I'd just like to say, it did for us down there. It did impact us quite a bit. And then when they shut us back down, and then we reopened, and we got to build the parklets out front. And then that's when the construction started. It was almost just like, and so we got a notice in the email, that we had to have the whole structure moved in 4 days, which is impossible. So we reached out to Lulu Feliciano, and she got us in touch with the head of the SFMTA and the NTK.
That would be me.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I had personal involvement and actually spent a lot of time on your block making sure things were very okay.
It was great, and they all met. We all met, and then they worked with us really well. And we got, I think it's Jay. Was Jay our point person for the city?
Initially it was Jerry Deep, and then now it's currently Jay Lou.
Okay, Jay, it was Jay. So he was a point person, and then so we got an email a couple of days later saying, you don't have to move, you don't have to do anything. So we're great, okay. And about a week after that, we got a notice, you have to move it in 2 days, completely out. And this is real. And then so we call and go, really, okay. And they met. We met with them again, and they just said, you've got to move it. And but the NTA guy and this other SFMTA said, look, all we need is 2 feet. We'll figure, I don't know. And so we were under the impression we're going to have to move it. And then about 3 days later, because we were trying to find out any contractor who could disassemble it, because you can't just cut it down. it's a structure, a safe structure. And one of our bartenders was coming to open up, and I got a text that, "Hey, nice wall." I was thinking, what are you talking about? And another one came in, "Hey, nice wall." So I walked down there, and they had put up a wall to protect the corral or shared space, and then they could actually work. So it was safe for both of us, and it was great. It was great, and they were just, thank you. I was say thank to everybody.
Well, except for on the communication side. So apologies on the communication side.
Well, that was horrible.
Yeah, but really bad. It was, we've really used because your block is such a challenging block for the project in every imaginable way. We've actually we're internally using it as a case study for how we can learn for other projects. And what's we want to make sure that we're, holding a contract and being responsible with public money for the, project budget and project schedule. But at the same time, we know we need to play our part in helping small businesses through recovery and not being just doctrinaire, but instead finding creative solutions that can be win-wins. The contractors can do their work, not take on too much liability for a piece of construction equipment, hitting somebody that's in your parklet, and allowing you to continue to do your business. So I'm actually really proud, and particularly of the other two SFMTA people who are on the call, both Suchin and Lulu, worked really hard to try to figure that out along with their crews, and now they're applying those lessons to other projects as well.
Yeah, I want to, thank you all for doing that. It worked out great. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I apologize for the confusion. Definitely, we are putting that to heart and putting that as lesson learned of having a clear message and decision before we confuse the businesses and community moving forward. Just want to touch on one point is the project team always have the community and businesses in our heart. We know how important and how difficult it is, especially during COVID-19. And we'll do the same for segment B. We'll take everyone's interest and everyone's expectation into account when we are doing the work out there. We'll do the very, very best to minimize and try our best to avoid any interference with the businesses and the community as much as we can. There will be times that we will have to come to ask for forgiveness and come to ask for your help to partner with us to get something done. But I have my team and I and communication, we are committed to work with the community moving forward in segment B to get clear communication out, to do our best to accommodate everybody's needs.
Great. Thanks, Les, for your comments, and Suchin, thank you.
Thank you.
I have Paula here, Paula Katz. She is a local resident in that neighborhood at 44th, and she had some comments she'd like to make as well.
Hey, Jeff. Nice to meet you. So I had a question. When will phase A be completely finished? And a related question, when will the staging area that's down near the lower grade highway be removed? And then a couple other questions that follow that.
So those would be good questions for Suchin.
My project manager, Kinwei, is online. Kinwei, would you like to chime in on the more specific on the schedule? Kinwei, you're muted.
Yeah, hello, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, so the project is about 99% complete. Right now, the last item that we are working on is the shrub or the little grass, like small little plant inside the within the boarding island, the planting area, landscaping area. So that's about maybe a couple more weeks and then we're done with the project.
That's great. So when will the staging area be removed?
So I would say by end of June, because some of the, I have one resident reach out to us and say, oh, this little particular plant is affecting his allergy. So we're trying to accommodate the rest. So with that, it's give us a little bit of time because that we need to work it out with the landscape architect. So like I said, it's within 2 or 3 weeks we'll be done. We'll be out of that.
Okay, so that leads to my next question. If phase A is going to be completed by the end of June, why aren't you ready to start phase B? So that why weren't the contracts been put out to bid? We want our El Taravel light rail vehicles back from the zoo to West Portal and maybe downtown. And we're going to be stuck. We're not going to have that because there's like a 6-month delay until you even start phase B. So I was just really surprised to hear that it hasn't gone out to bid and you're not going to start the first shovels in the ground till maybe January. And I was wondering if you could explain to us why, because it really leaves us in limbo to have our community back with a 6-month break in construction there.
Yeah, I can answer that question. Originally, when we go out to bid, it actually advertised in February or March of 2021 with the expectation that we would be opening bid and going into construction very closely connected. When A is done, we'll go walk into B. But unfortunately, several things occur. One of the biggest things that occur is along Taravel, beside MTA doing the work out there, PG&E has a lot of capital improvement project along the corridor. One of the key things for success of the project is to have PG&E complete the gas relocation line and electrical relocation for the community before we come in and dig out the water and the sewer and replacing the trackway. So this job, instead of bid opening in May, it's been postponed to bid opening in July. We postponed the first shovel in the ground until after January because we are trying to accommodate PG&E to give them sufficient time to get that work done before we start major construction on the corridor. So that's the key issue that we have, why A and B is not seamless and not continuous right away. It's that factor that's the key factor there.
Okay, so
and Suchin is being very polite about our situation with PG&E.
Okay, so during that 6-month hiatus where you don't have construction, are you going to put the light rail back so we'll be able to get on at the zoo and go all the way to West Portal?
No, unfortunately, we're still struggling on the restart of the Muni system. As you know, we will be doing a major August service expansion, including restoring service to all of the parts of the southwest of San Francisco that have been, without any transit service for over a year now. But we are still understaffed on the rail side, so that is going to prevent us from restoring either the M or the L. For the time being.
Then my final question, and I appreciate everyone and you, Jeff, bearing with me, is, correct me if I'm wrong, but I've read that ultimately the K and the M will go through West Portal and all the way downtown and back, but those of us on the L will own, once all the construction's done and light rail vehicles are back, we'll only be able to go from the zoo to West Portal, and then we'll have to transfer to take Muni Metro downtown. And if that's true, I'd like to ask you, and I'm sure everyone else who rides the El Taravel would like to ask you, to change that so that we can get on at the zoo and ride all the way downtown. I don't think you were around when we had the big struggles over removing bus stops. And the reason MTA gave us for removing so many of our bus stops is that it would save 3 to 6 minutes round trip to get from the zoo to West Portal. Of course, for the people who lost their bus stops, it added 5 to 10 minutes to walk to the new bus stop and wait longer for the bus. But be that as it may, we gave up a lot of our bus stops over a lot of community objection. So MTA could save 3 to 6 minutes round trip, or even 5 minutes each way. And now if we have to go and change trains at West Portal, it's going to take us all an extra 5 to 10 minutes by the time we get off and then walk inside and then wait for the next train. And plus we've been going through all these struggles. It's going to be like 5 years of construction when we were told it was 2 or 3. If you have to disadvantage a neighborhood, please don't disadvantage us anymore. Let us take the El Taravel and ride all the way downtown. So what are your thoughts on that? Do I have it wrong? Are we going to be able to ride downtown, or are we going to have to change at West Portal? And if we are, can we convince you to let us go all the way downtown?
So as you'll recall, back in April, we had our ill-fated 3-day relaunch of rail service. And we needed to radically change the subway service in order to be able to get more efficiency out of the subway. So that did involve what we call interlining the K and the L. So instead of running downtown, the L ran to Balboa Park Station. What this did for us is allowed us to only run 2- and 3-car trains in a subway designed for 4-car trains, take the 1-car trains out of the subway, and dramatically improve reliability. You probably know, if you've been in the city for a long time, up until the late 80s, trains coupled at West Portal. So, the subway was designed for 4-car trains. And so 1- and 2-car trains from the KL and M lines would join at West Portal and go into the subway as a 3- or a 4-car train. That didn't work very well. I was around then when the trains would refuse to couple and you'd be stuck there for 20 minutes at West Portal. And so our subway, we're getting at best 20% capacity out of our subway, which is an extraordinary waste. So the plan is basically to run trains every 2 minutes in the subway from West Portal to Embarcadero, and run eventually 4-car trains when we have enough rail lines, but in the beginning, 2- and 3-car trains, so that we can improve capacity and reliability as the city grows. We have no other option to accommodate the dramatic growth in downtown San Francisco. So we're still eager to experiment. Like, what we did for 3 days wasn't a long enough test to see if it really worked in practice, and what its impact was on overall door-to-door travel time for people. So once the L is all ready and once the service is fully back, we'll want to do that KL experiment again and see how it works. The status quo, or the pre-COVID status quo, is completely untenable.
Okay, well, if by the time our construction is completed and the El Taravel is ready to go again, the people on the K and the M lines are going to be used to going all the way downtown, and they're not going to want to have to change trains at the tunnel. So could you make sure when you announce it that if they're going all the way downtown, that it's on a temporary basis, and when the L is running again, you're going to reassess? And will you give us a chance to fight to go to, or convince you to make the El Taravel a 3- or 4-car train and go all the way downtown?
There'll be lots of community process, and I'm sure lots of people lobbying for all kinds of things, and most San Franciscans unhappy with me. That's part of my job, is to make everyone equally unhappy.
Okay, well, thank you. Keep us in mind.
Thanks, Paula. Thanks for those words. And astute observation.
Albert, can I make a couple of comments?
Les, that's what we're all here for. Yes, please.
One, take it for what it's worth. I've had several comments where people are saying those blue lines make me dizzy. No, the blue lines on the pedestrian crossings and stuff. That's on Terraville now. And the second thing there is during the detour and Muni buses, and it probably happened probably 6-7 times where now I go to the Walgreens a lot, and every time I go there, even during the detour, people are there waiting. So I'm there telling people, no, they don't stop here anymore. No, you have to go all the way over there to catch the bus. So must be some sort of notification issue or something where there's people still waiting to get on the bus when the bus is not going to be there. So a couple comments.
The Walgreens in the 30s. Where's the Walgreens again?
Walgreens at 40th.
Yeah, 40th and Terraville.
Okay.
And that's a fairly big pedestrian stop. No, a lot of people get on, in the Walgreens area.
Okay, Suchin, could you make sure your team takes a look at that and see, and in fact, that's probably a reminder to look at all of the signage for the stops to make sure that people understand the difference between the former rail and the current bus stops.
Will do.
Thank you. Thanks, Les. I'd like to just add some of my observations on there, Jeffrey, as we kind of wrap up this segment here. I found that during the lower beachside Terraville construction, it was really inconvenient to have PG&E and SFMTA doing their projects concurrently, because PG&E was on Santiago and on Yoloa, and then you had Terraville all ripped up, and so you had street closures, detours, and loss of parking every which way, and it hurt the merchants a lot, especially over at 40th and 41st, and then later when it was down near 46th Avenue, it was also troubling. So I kind of wonder if that can be better coordinated. I hear that you've got this gap now between segment A and segment B, and hopefully that resolves some of those conflicts in the work schedule and locations. But I just want to make sure that you guys knew that that was really like COVID, Terraville, and then later PG&E coming in all at once was just a triple witching.
Yes, we've definitely heard that, and it is, I have some sympathy for PG&E, in the fires last summer, and the expected catastrophes that will be hitting them this summer, given the drought situation. They have been completely overtaxed. They're, in litigation everywhere. They're having a really hard time getting workers to do their work. And so I have some sympathy for them being completely incapable of sticking to any schedule and, following through on their commitments. And yet they're also just a really, really challenging partner. I wish that our crews have fought really, really hard. We actually get the mayor directly involved in trying to help us in our PG&E negotiations because everyone in California is suffering the same problem around their projects.
Understood. Thank you. And the other thing too is that now as we come out of segment A, I think it might be a good time to revisit an old argument that we had that I think some people have brought up, which is the lack of parking. Since now that we have loss of parking because of the boarding islands, we would like to have, some parking brought back in maybe other areas. And one of the old discussions that we had before your time there at SFMTA was to take Santiago or Yoloa and possibly turn those streets into 90-degree parking. That would help recoup some of the parking that's lost on Terraville. Because the merchants do complain, and it was like, once you lost the parking altogether, it was worse. But now that things are coming back to the new normal of the new landscape on the street, the parking is nevertheless gone, and yet these businesses still need to prosper. And maybe doing that kind of 90-degree parking or other ways, like maybe 1 hour parking or some sort of more rapid turnaround of the side streets partially at least coming off of Terraville Street would help. So maybe we can.
Our parking team has also been kind of overwhelmed during COVID. They're actually the most creative parking team that I've worked with anywhere in the United States. And so some of the things that they are thinking about are some potential changes to the residential parking permit program to make accommodate merchant corridor workforce parking in a more thoughtful way that is more tailored to the particular parking conditions of a neighborhood, and as well workforce parking permit programs that might be separate. So, for example, if we did perpendicular parking on Santiago or Ulloa, could that be partly merchant employee parking? So that it's not just entirely consumed by residents. But this is one of these challenging issues in a corridor like Terraville, which is both residential and commercial. And of course, the residents at the same time are complaining to us about parking as well. So parking is it's a finite resource. And we provide deeply discounted rent on city land for cars, which is a benefit, but it's also part of the problem. So the solutions are complex, but I know that our team can present different options and kind of tune the dials in different ways relative to like short-term and long-term, resident and customer versus employee. All of those issues are ones they're familiar with.
I think we can also perhaps bring in the scooter rideshare programs to help in the discussion. Maybe people can park in a certain area, and then maybe there's discounts to scooters so they can zip up Terraville to their work, or for patrons to go to the restaurants and businesses they want to frequent. So that it's worth having a meeting and kind of kicking those ideas around. Now, some of the takeaways that I thought that I heard here tonight is that the noise, keeping the streets clean, that really helps a lot. Just even, I mean, I know that the construction is unavoidable, but at least make it as clean and as presentable as possible. Street crossings. This is one that happened at 40th and 41st, where they, took out two intersections, 40th and 41st at the same time, so that there was no way to cross the street for 4 blocks.
It happened to us too.
Right, and so you left people on one side of the street abandoned and stranded. They couldn't get to the other side, especially if they were older folks
Super bad.
or someone with accessibility problems. So we needed to, and I did talk to Jay about that, and I have to say that your team was fantastic. Once I called out the problem, you guys were quick to build some bridges on literally on those 2 intersections and save the day. I just want to remind you that please do continue doing that. Also, I'd like to reactivate the Civic Edge ad campaign negotiations or discussions that we had, so that the segment B program and advertisement posters and so forth can continue, because during this lag time would be a great time to have those discussions with them. And see what I have here. Street crossings. Oh yeah, okay. I talked about the parking, keeping clean, and also yes, keeping us updated. Who's the next business, or which block is going to be affected next as we move up the street would be very helpful, just so that we know when we're going to get that punch, and we can either hunker down or even close business if we have to, if it's really that disruptive for that period of time. So thank you.
Thank you. I mean, thank you so much. Like, all this has been incredibly constructive feedback for us, which is oftentimes not necessarily what we get. So all of this is quite well taken, and we'll fold it into the lessons learned, again, not only for Terraville and segment B, but for all the commercial districts where we're doing work in San Francisco.
Albert.
Eileen.
Albert. Hi, Director Tumlin. Hi, my name is Eileen Boken. I'm the president of Sunset Parkside Education and Action Committee. I'm also on the board of Save Muni. And I don't know if you want to discuss this today, but I was at the yesterday's MTA Revenue Bond Oversight Committee meeting, and I made some comments about the Alteravel that are, I think, more specific. We can go through that now, or if you'd like to take that offline, I'd be willing to do that.
It's at the chair's discretion.
Excuse.
Eileen, is it something that's pertinent to the discussion on Teravel as to, like the takeaways from
Yes.
construction business?
Well, it's actually a little bit different. It's going in a different direction. And my comments had to do with the MTA is reviewing its post-COVID operations. Is the MTA also reviewing the projects that were designed in the pre-COVID era, such as the Alteravel? And based on an MTA grant to CalSTA in 2019 early, TIRCP, a Transit Intercity Capital Rail Program, it did talk about interlining the K and the L. And it didn't talk about it being temporary. It talked about it being permanent. So if there is going to be an interlining, is this now the opportunity to review the current design? And what I didn't state really in this meeting was that City Chief Economist Ted Egan has predicted that post-pandemic there will be 25% fewer workers in the downtown due to telework. However, other economists say it's going to be more like 40 to 60%. Fewer workers in downtown, fewer commuters. So that would have an impact on the finances of MTA. And also at the MTA Bond Oversight Committee, I didn't talk about the facts about the proposed MTA parcel tax, the proposed MTA general obligation bonds, and the renewal of the Prop K sales tax. So my question is a more general question, based on the MTA's financial situation and changes to the MTA's operations due to telework, is this really, should the project, the Phase B or Phase 2, really move forward with its pre-pandemic design, or is this an opportunity to take a look at the design, how it's going to fit in the post-pandemic era? So that's kind of a long question. I'd be happy to continue offline, or if you would like to come discuss it at Save Muni, I would appreciate that.
So the answer is actually really easy. The design of segment B doesn't impact our operational flexibility. So, we want to move forward with this project because the underground utilities need updating and our track needs replacement along with the other infrastructure. So how we then operate trains post-construction, that's a completely unrelated decision, fortunate. So we've got lots of different options and we have plenty of time since the construction project is going to last a while. And we will then know what is the state of employment in downtown and what is the state of the SFMTA budget, which is indeed in trouble.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else with any comments? Okay, thank you. Thank you everybody for all your commentary. Thank you, the SFMTA team, Director Jeffrey Tumlin, for coming in today. I do have to say that your team has been, much more reactive and helpful in solving problems, and I'm really happy to see that. So I look forward to continued relationship in segment B. And I look forward to hearing your discussions and results with Eileen Boken there with Save Muni. So anyway.
Thank you so much for having us.
No, thank you. Thank you very much. All right. So I will move on to the next item. We were supposed to have Cruz come in today, but I don't think Mark Dunphy is here. Is there any? Oh, Kenny Motia. Okay, there we go.
Yeah, no, I'm here. Thanks so much for having me.
I didn't know you were the one coming in. Okay, sorry. Go ahead, Kenny. The floor is yours.
Fantastic. So first and foremost, like I said, thank you all for inviting Cruz to be a part of your meeting here and share some of our updates. definitely look forward to learning from you all, sort of what you've been experiencing in your community. It was interesting even to listen to that last conversation with Director Tumlin. And just by way of background on myself, it sounds like there's a few merchants in the audience here, and the merchant community is very near and dear to my heart at a personal level. My dad owns a grocery store back in New York City, in the Bronx, where I was pretty much born and raised. So I'm very familiar with a lot of the things you all deal with. And I know that the pandemic has only exacerbated some of the challenges that have already been in existence. So I want to start by saying that please, use Cruise as a resource. We want to be your partner. We want to help. But with that, I know I have a limited time here, so I do want to jump into the presentation. 1 second while I try to share my screen.
Let me. Let me.
Yeah, I think I need your permission.
Oh, here we go. Hang on. Okay, you can drive.
Fantastic.
Okay. I think that was a pun for Cruise. You can drive.
There you go. Okay, can folks see my screen there?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, so for those who are unfamiliar with Cruise, we are a self-driving car company looking to build the world's safest autonomous vehicles to connect people to the places, things, and experiences they care about, which all well and good. But I think what's important to talk about is what exactly is Cruise? And there's a few different points that I think separate us from some of the other autonomous vehicle companies that you've seen on the road in San Francisco. For one, our vehicles are in direct support of supporting our city of San Francisco, the state of California, and even President Biden and his administration's goals to electrify transportation and sort of phase out gas-powered vehicles. Our vehicles have been all electric since day one, powered by 100% renewable energy in San Francisco. Obviously, the self-driving piece. But I think the other part that's important to sort of make clear is that our goal is to build a shared ride model. And I think it kind of dovetails pretty well with some of the transportation conversations that have been happening in San Francisco, as well as other major cities across the country, right? Congestion is not a problem or an issue just in one city. We kind of see it across the board. So in our mind, if we can create a shared ride service, it helps support this, again, transition away from single occupant gas-powered vehicles and ensuring that we can provide a sustainable rideshare service that's also affordable so that it can adequately and reliably serve the community. And naturally, the next question is, well, why do we need this, right? There's a couple of reasons. We just kind of touched on a couple, but I think number one, the number of road fatalities that we experience on US roads every day is unacceptable. I know the statistic here says 36,000, but I actually read a report from NHTSA, the National Highway Traffic Safety Association, where they indicated there were over 38,000 lives lost last year, which is, it's kind of startling to hear that, considering how much less or how many fewer drivers there actually were on the road due to the pandemic. So although there were less drivers, there were more road fatalities. And the reason for that is because of, the fewer drivers on the road, unfortunately led to more mistakes that were, done by driver, just risky driving behaviors that led to these challenges. And from our perspective, a Cruise autonomous vehicle will never drive under the influence and never drives tired, doesn't get distracted. So we believe that we can help build a safer transportation environment. When we think of accessibility, again, this is a real challenge and it's tough to address. Again, it was also touched on in the previous conversation, right? Making sure that you're in compliance and updating, the access to transportation. And when over 6 million Americans in the US identify transportation as a major barrier to access, specifically to the workforce, that's a problem. So how can we build something that, can get folks from A to B or A to Z with little to no issue, especially when you think about folks in the blind and low vision community, as an example. who, for obvious reasons are unable to drive a vehicle themselves, how do you build something that can get them, to where they need to get, so that they can start patronizing the businesses they want to patronize, working where they want to work, and not simply doing things because it's, quote, more convenient for them to get to. And then the climate change factor, I think we've all lived it in San Francisco, especially last year, where we experienced the worst wildfires in our state's history. And I believe that the number, or better said, transportation contributes 29% of all greenhouse gas emissions in the US. I believe in San Francisco or California, that number is actually up to about 40%. So again, building a sustainable future of transportation, how do we phase out gas-powered vehicles, and start to have these conversations about how we can build something better for the future. And with that, I want to just quickly touch on a few of the recent announcements that we've made. Like I mentioned earlier, our vehicles are 100% all electric, powered by renewable energy. And because the autonomous vehicle industry is such a new industry, earlier this year, we issued our Clean Mile Challenge. And simply what that was is, calling on our industry peers to going all electric today. Again, being that it's such a new industry, it's something that we strongly believe can be done. Number one, because we're doing it. Number two, it just needs to be made a priority. So as long as you prioritize the environment, it is something that can be built into. So that was us just, again, challenging our peers to commit to doing the same and sharing that information with the community. You all deserve to know you're directly impacted by it. And then secondly, as we transition into or out of gas-powered vehicles, it's important that we invest in clean energy. And it's also important that private companies step up and do that themselves. As much as we appreciate and support everything that our governments are going to do for us. Again, environmental sustainability needs to be made a priority. And we also need to prioritize the infrastructure needed to support that. As we think about, phasing out gas-powered vehicles, one topic to really keep in mind is not everyone can afford an electric vehicle. So in order to build a service that can equitably serve everyone, and really, quote unquote, democratize the green mile, as we sort of say, you need to have the infrastructure in place that will allow you to scale at a rate that allows you to, again, provide that equitable service to every neighborhood in San Francisco, not just the traditional tourist districts, or the busier parts of the city, the downtowns of the world, et cetera. So that's an investment that we're making to build one of the largest clean energy charging research and development infrastructures in San Francisco, specifically in District 10. Still at the very beginning stages of this project, but we wanted to share that announcement just to make our intentions clear that, number one, we're committed to the environment, but also that we're committed to the city of San Francisco. Additionally, I want to just touch on, from the Cruise perspective, we often position every decision we make as, will this solution help us partner with people to help improve quality of life in any sort of way? So we're always looking for opportunities to, again, support you all. We really are committed to being community partners to everyone. So when I encourage you to reach out to us and share any information, I truly do mean it. Through an autonomous vehicle service, we believe we can save lives. Again, like I mentioned, safer transportation, reshape cities by focusing it more around people focused and not vehicle focused. And also the less time that folks have to spend in commute, like actually driving, the more time that they get back in their lives, which again, for anyone who's ever been stuck in traffic, I think you can probably attest to the benefits of that. And, I think over the course of the last year, one of the moments that really was able to highlight this commitment to being community partners was what we were able to do in partnership with the SF Marin Food Bank and SF New Deal. Some of you may have heard of this, but we really never had a plan to launch a delivery service or anything of that nature. However, one of the first indicators of the severity of the pandemic was the rise of food insecurity. And what we started hearing from the food banks is that they essentially needed to scale their service by double overnight to be able to adequately serve, the communities they were serving, as well as the others who were newly affected by the pandemic. So we partnered with both organizations. We actually recently announced that Over the past year, we were able to make over 1 million deliveries of meals and groceries to families in need across the city. I believe the number was something like 84% of those deliveries went to households below the San Francisco poverty line. So just thinking about, again, how partnering with the community, you can make an actual real impact today. As much as we think of autonomous vehicles as, potentially something of the future, we've seen some of the benefits, and it's also important to note that all those deliveries were made, again, in all electric vehicles. So again, think about the number of carbon emissions that are being saved from the environment by using that kind of vehicle to make the delivery, as opposed to, again, the traditional gas-powered vehicles. And then for the sake of time, I'm happy to send this video to you afterwards, Albert, so that you can share with the group. But it's we recently became the first autonomous vehicle company to join Pledge 1%, which essentially means that Cruise is committed to dedicating a percentage of their fleet to servicing social impact initiatives, such as our food delivery program with the food banks in any market where we have a presence, so San Francisco and beyond. So it's a really cool video. It's only a couple of minutes, but again, I know we're running a little late here, so I'll share the links with you all after. And then on the safety piece, one of the things that's important to note is, number one, we are pre-commercial. We do not have an actual service that we're charging people for, which is why I really enjoy having these conversations with communities across the city to get an understanding of how can we build something that really serves the needs that you all have. I think another one of the advantages that Cruise has is that due to our strong relationships with GM and Honda, who are both relatively big manufacturers, they're building a vehicle to fit our technology, which helps ensure that we can prioritize, things like safety, accessibility, and sustainability from the beginning, which is really awesome. And then just to touch a little bit on the technology itself. So our AV suite currently sits on the Chevy Bolt platform, while we build the other vehicle, which I'll share a little more about at the end of the presentation. But each of our vehicles comes equipped with 40 sensors, over 40 sensors. 3 of the main ones that you'll see are the cameras, LiDARs, and radars, each of which serves a different function. The graphics below each section sort of highlight what they actually show and what they do for the vehicles. At a high level, the cameras are able to give sort of a real world picture of what the vehicle sees around it, with full 360 view, because we have cameras around the vehicle. The LiDAR sensor allows it to detect nearby objects, and the radar is what allows to measure velocity and speed of like incoming objects, the trajectory of other things and then, the vehicle takes all this information, feeds it into the computer, and that's what allows it to safely interact with the road and other road users. But we also understand that, safety is not sort of a one-step thing, right? There's multiple things that need to happen to ensure that you're prioritizing safety and really using it as your North Star. So on top of the technology, we're constantly testing our vehicles via, real world testing. We also have simulation, which allows us to really build in different, really any sort of scenario that a driver might encounter on the road. It allows us to build that into the system and watch and learn how our vehicle will react to it so that we can then address any sort of issues that may arise. Additionally, we work very closely with first responders to get an understanding for, what they experience, what do they need to know, how can they safely interact with an autonomous vehicle. And to give just a quick example of some of the things that we've talked about, when you think about pulling over a vehicle, if you're a police officer, usually you can ask someone, license, registration, or for whatever documentation you need. When it's a driverless vehicle, you can't do that. There's no driver. So even simple things like understanding, where is the vehicle information housed? Do you keep it outside the vehicle? Do you keep it inside the vehicle? If it's inside the vehicle, where is it? But again, just these little things that, again, for us, we're not the experts as far as like being in the field every day. First responders are. So even being able to interact with them and have that dialogue is incredibly helpful. And additionally, we work with several groups who, have been road safety advocates for years. 2 of the groups that we work closely with are Mothers Against Drunk Driving and the Vision Zero Network, who has, as you all know, I'm sure, committed to a world where there, there are no more victims, no more road fatalities, which we're fully in support of. So it really takes like a blending of all these different factors. And again, just learning from the experts. We're very aware that we don't have the answers to everything, and I never want to present us as such. To me, what I see Cruise as is more of a tool in the toolbox. But again, we believe that by working together with all these different groups, including you all, we can really build something that works for everyone. And coming on the last couple of slides here, but want to touch on how you'll see our vehicles, two of which are through our normal testing, and also through our food delivery program that I had highlighted earlier. We aren't doing the passenger service, haven't been doing it for a while because of COVID. So just being extra cautious around that. The other way in which you may encounter vehicles is through our driverless autonomous testing. A couple of points to clarify here. You don't just decide to begin driverless autonomous testing, right? Like we have to work with regulators, namely the California DMV and the California Public Utilities Commission, to show that our vehicles are capable of actually doing these things, to show that we have whatever proper documentation in place to be able to do that. So last year we received our permit from the California DMV to begin driverless testing in San Francisco, which we have. And this is a process that was over 5 years of testing in the city, over 2 million miles of autonomous driving that was logged. And the other thing I just want to point out is that we're doing this in a very limited scale. And part of what I make a priority for myself is that before we start driverless testing in any community, I always reach out to any of the folks that I know there, just say, hey, want to give you a heads up that this is coming to your neighborhood. Please let me know if you have any questions. Because again, for us, it's really important to just make sure that we keep the community informed, let you all know what we're doing. And again, just ready to take any feedback from everyone. This is also just a video from our first driverless moment. I'll share this one real fast. It's only a few seconds.
Well, I can't wait. This is in the sunset.
This was our first drive. Can you guys hear that?
To go to. You can go and get dumplings. Yep. I can't wait to take that first driverless ride when I can get in the back.
The first dumpling run, like dumpling zero?
Yeah, I'll go pick up dumplings for everybody.
That's a lot of dumplings.
So that was just like a short clip from our very first driverless moment in the sunset late last year. And just this really cool moment between two of our founders, right? Like being able to see all of the work that's been put into it and like it's really happening. So there's a lot of exciting stuff there. And then the last piece I want to touch on is the Cruise origin. Some of you may have seen this. We actually revealed it not this January, but January of last year. And this is the vehicle that GM is building for us. That is, again, fully designed to be a sustainable rideshare model for the city of San Francisco, one that is accessible. As you can see, there's like a lot of room in there, more than in the typical vehicle that we see today. So I'll share just a quick video from that reveal moment.
What we're showing you today is what you'd build if there were no cars. Meet the Cruise origin. It is self-driven. It is all electric. It is shared. It is not a concept. It is a production vehicle.
I've got a ridiculous amount of space here. You can touch your toes, you can stretch.
Awesome and affordable. It's right for you. Electric and shared. And that's what's right for the world.
And with that, I will close. Again, just want to thank you all for inviting us to be a part of the conversation and for spending some time with us. You can feel free to reach out to us at the alias you see on the screen, community@getcruise.com. Also, Albert, please feel free to share my email with everyone here. I'll also put it in the chat for folks. But yeah, happy to take any questions if there's time for that. But tossing it back over to you, Albert.
Yeah, thank you. Any questions for Kenny here?
How many vehicles do you expect to have out, say, in San Francisco?
That is a great question. So just real quick, wanted to let everyone know that I did throw my personal email in the chat. So again, please feel free to reach out. So It depends. There's not like a concrete answer. If you're asking in the future, it's hard to say. That question is truthfully above my pay grade. If you're curious to know about how many vehicles we have in San Francisco now, I can definitely pull that information. It's only a couple of hundred, but again, that's just how many vehicles we have, not that they're necessarily all on the road at the same time. And as far as the driverless testing that I mentioned, we only have 5 vehicles that are authorized to do that. And again, it's done at a very limited scale in different neighborhoods across the city, which again, we'll definitely be sure to keep you all in the loop once we get to that phase.
So where will they eventually be stored? Say at night, where were they going to be parked?
Yeah, so we actually have a few facilities in San Francisco where our vehicles are stored. So none of our vehicles take up street parking or anything like that. They're kept in our garage.
I have a premature question. I know there's only 5 vehicles out. I'm sorry, Les, were you done?
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay, I'm sorry. I know it's a bit premature and you only have 5 vehicles on the road and you're not ride sharing yet, but for the future, once you guys grow, I mean, how would you protect from like a cyber attack? Because there's like so much of that stuff going on. I mean, I don't know. I just thought I'd throw that out there.
No, it's a terrific question and one that comes up pretty often. And look, that's like a way deeper conversation that I am not an engineer, so I'm not smart enough to give like the full in-depth answer. But at a high level, what I'll say is this: when I say testing, it's not just testing against like driving and like how it would interact with the road, but that safety piece, as far as protection against cybersecurity, is one of them. And you know, one of the things that we've done is a couple of the folks that actually lead our security team, as it relates to, you know, that sort of cybersecurity space, are folks who, I believe it was in 2015, it was the story about like that a Jeep vehicle was hacked. So we brought those folks on to like, again, how did you do this, right? Like, let's talk about it. And how do we build against exactly that? So, you know, we are definitely doing that testing and trying to build that in again from the beginning. It's a much deeper conversation to get into specifics. So happy to chat a little more offline if it's definitely a topic of interest. But at a high level, what I'll say is that we're protecting against exactly that and building against that from the beginning.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you.
Of course.
Who's going to be your competition?
That depends on who you ask. So one of the things we're seeing across the board is that the AV space is sort of consolidating. And this is my personal opinion. This isn't Cruise speaking. But what I think a lot of folks are realizing is that building an autonomous vehicle is tough. And in order to do that, you need adequate resourcing, but also it needs to be your sole focus. For us, this is what we do. This is what we're focused on. So, you know, from our perspective, I really don't want to speak to or about other companies. I know that there are numerous other AV companies that are testing in San Francisco, but also in other markets across the state. You know, I can't speak to where they are as far as like their technology and what they're doing. But what I will say is that we feel pretty confident in where we are. And I think we've built a lot of good momentum over the past couple of years, especially again, and a lot of it has to do with having these conversations and just letting folks know, again, who we are and getting an understanding from you all. How do we do this the right way? And another one of the things that Cruise has done from the beginning, which to my knowledge, not many other companies have done, is we chose to test in San Francisco for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's our hometown. So it's like, if we're going to do this and we're going to do it right, let's start here, right? This is where our people are. This is what we know. But also San Francisco, as you all know, is a very challenging and complex driving environment. When you think about the different types of vehicles on the road, the amount of, you know, you'll see double parked vehicles. We talked earlier about congestion in some areas. So you just get this multitude of experiences that, again, you get to build into the vehicle from the beginning. So all of that, I think, has really put us in a good place. You know, I hope that through this all, Cruise will emerge as the leader in the autonomous vehicle space.
There's one question, I think the last one, Kenny, from Maria Eliza that she put in the chat box. How many incident reports have you had made? Was the one on Alabama Street last week reported when the crews drove into a police action and got stuck at the end of the block?
That is news to me. I hadn't heard of that one. If you do have more information on that, please do send it my way. To the larger question about how many incidents we have, I don't want to speculate. What I will say is the California DMV requires that every company put out a report about any incidents that they have. So I'm happy to share that link because I don't remember the number off the top of my head, but I'm happy to share it with you all so you can have that and take a look. But seriously, like if there is information about an incident that happened with a cruise vehicle, definitely send it my way. Usually those things are flagged pretty quickly. But I had not heard of this specific incident. So it also could have been just another autonomous vehicle. But yes, please definitely pass along any information.
All right. Thanks, Kenny. I think I'm going to wrap up that segment so that we can move along to Les's segment here. So, Kenny, thank you for coming, and I will reach out to you as things open up. I want to engage with you with regards to partnerships and trying your product.
Absolutely, I would love to help set that up. And again, definitely, like I said, keep me in the loop if there are any projects that you all are working on. I know that it's a little tough to do in-person, support because of the pandemic. Hopefully, I think as things get better, we can get back to that. But even if there's things that, again, we can support financially or participate in some other sort of way, I'm happy to get creative and talk through these ideas. But again, thank you all so much for the time. Really appreciate the invitation, and hope this is the first of many conversations.
All right. Thank you, Kenny.
Awesome. Thank you all.
Okay. All right. Les, thank you for your patience. We ran a little long today, but
what I can do is I can just do one slide, but it's not related to reviews. It's kind of related, but it's not totally, and defer it till next time.
Okay. You want to do a quick, you want me to just let you co-host here?
Yeah, I'll just show this one slide. So it's slightly off topic, but
okay, you're on.
You give me shares.
You are, yeah, you're co-hosting.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay, I'm just going to go to the end, and instead of talking about reviews, I'm just going to do one slide, and it's free ways to support your local business. And people are doing this to a degree, but no, the more if you want to help a given business, the more you do this, the more effective it's going to be for yourself. For example, writing positive reviews. If you do a lot of Yelping or Google, if you do a lot of them, you can become an expert. So when you give someone a review, it's going to help a business in their search engine rankings, because you have more credibility if you give a lot of reviews. Okay. Another thing there is tell your friends and family about the business. Again, it's something very easy to do, and we all do it to a degree, but we probably don't do it often enough. So if you have a favorite business, you should share it a lot. Social media, go on their Facebook page, join the Facebook page, share their posts, like their posts, any type of activity on a person's Facebook page helps them. It helps their positioning in Facebook, and also it it gives them more exposure on other people's sites. Same thing with engaging in their posts. When people see engagement on a Facebook page, they'll look at that and they say, wow, that's a great business. No, we should go, no, maybe we should go and visit them sometimes. So the more you can shout out, now the more, I guess it goes to the next one, give them a shout out. So what happens there is the ranking of a Facebook page is dependent on the activity of the page. So for example, let's look like a point system. If you like the page, you know, that's a fairly easy activity. So you don't get as much credit as if you, for example, comment on the page. Now, if you comment, let's say you get 2 points for a comment, and that's because it takes more effort. Instead of just liking, clicking something, you actually have to go in, you have to do something. So commenting is the next best step. And then what's even better is to share. So you either like, you either comment, or you can share. If you share someone's post, so that gets their Facebook page on other Facebook pages. So it kind of, I don't know, gives them more exposure.
Okay.
And the last thing you can do is, you know, not everyone has newsletters, but if they do, sign up for them.
All right.
So this is something about little tips on helping a local business. And like I said, reviews, I can talk about reviews next time or some other meeting. It's about a 15, 20-minute presentation.
We'll try to do it next month then. How's that?
That'd be fine.
Apologize for that. I know, Les, you worked so hard for the group, so yeah, hopefully I'll find some more time for you. All right. Just a couple of updates here before we round out our meeting tonight. We're right at the 35 mark. SFMTA, I didn't discuss this with regards to them while they're here because I want you guys to really give comments. But SFMTA is going to do a celebration and basically a thank you for all the fuss and muss about segment A. And they're planning to hold a celebration down on 46th Avenue sometime in the end of June, early July. As you had heard earlier, that's when they're due to wrap up. And so they're going to throw a little party down there, have some music, give some speeches. There'll be a couple of reporters, some food. So I'll keep you guys updated as to when that will happen. I also tried to start up movies in Macoupin this year, but I got shot down pretty hard with the Rec and Park Department. They put down a lot of restrictions, and it's a moving target as to what the restrictions will look like in October. But as of for now, it looks very, it's very prohibitive. If you saw, they're trying to start Stern Grove this coming summer. And if you go to the website, you'll find out that you have to, they're limiting it to, I think, 1,200 or 1,500 people, which is probably a third of what they usually have for their concerts. They have to come up with a plan. They have to have protocols. They have to have it reviewed by a board over at the Rec and Park. It's a lot of hoops to jump. And also you have to do reservations. So people can't just show up at our event. They'd have to reserve tickets. So, and then, you know, it's just too much work. So I'm just going to, for now, I'm just going to pass on that. And maybe we'll just try to start up next year. But one I'd like to do at the end of the year is still do the Christmas tree lighting. It can't be a completely sad street forever. Let's go ahead and continue the Christmas tree lighting this year and make that work, at least bring a little joy to the street. And also, I believe Wesley and Jessica sent out a newsletter, and in that newsletter, there is a survey that's asking you merchants to help us help you as to what do you think of us now? Where do you think we should be going? Which direction or any changes you think that POP should make with regards to helping you guys, helping our street out? You know, we're coming out of COVID. There's probably things that we haven't thought of or we haven't seen that you guys would like us to help or activate. So please reach out in that survey. So tell your fellow merchants to fill out that survey and get it back to us, okay? I see Mari has her hand up. Mari, would you like to speak? Make a comment?
Yes, just briefly, there's a little bit of noise around me. I was just curious as to whether or not you considered any branding, street branding signs in your neighborhood.
We did do that for segment A. We created a new name for that area called Beachside Terraville. I see you've been with us for the whole meeting. So one of the things I talked to Jeff Tumlin about is that we want to reactivate our relationship with Civic Edge, which is the city's marketing campaign contractor.
Okay.
And have them help us craft a new name and, logos, posters, and everything else for segment B. But yes, Mari, advertise, let it out. Beachside Terraville.
Beachside Terraville.
Yeah, maybe that's
Okay.
what real estate agents will start calling it now. I don't know.
Okay. I'll just get to you offline about that if that's okay.
That's fine. Good to
Thank
see
you.
you, Mari.
Okay, thanks. Good to see you.
All right. So anyway, if there are no other, Paula, hi.
Hi, I just wanted to thank you for getting Jeff Tumlin to our meeting. I think that was very helpful having all the MTA people there.
That was not easy.
Well, thank you for all your hard work doing it. It was good. And I think it was helpful to them.
Well, okay, now that any of the meeting people are not here,
I don't think they are.
I like him much better than Ed Riskin.
Oh, yeah.
He's
so
much,
far.
he is much, I have, in my engagements with him so far, he is much more responsive. He's made the entire team much more responsive. And I did confide within Lulu Feliciano that I think that Ed Riskin, this project, Terraville project, was much more of his baby, and also so was Van Ness and maybe Chinatown, the central subway. And so he was less willing to compromise on his child. Whereas Jeff came in and, he just felt like when he landed, he had to resolve all these conflicts. And so he's just trying to push it through. And I think that's what I see happening, because he's not wedded to it. He's not as attached to it. That's why he's been willing to compromise, and getting him to come to this meeting tonight was also another sign of that, I think.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Great fight. Good job, Albert and team. It's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, well, we're going to keep it up. We can't have movies this year, maybe, but at least hopefully we'll have a really beautiful street.
Okay.
When this is all said and done. Doug, sounds like you got your hands raised.
Oh, did I? Yeah. Just really quick, just 10 seconds and put it in the chat. I don't know how many people care about this. I definitely do, but this didn't come up with the MTA, but the shared spaces is kind of, was a temporary thing for COVID. A lot of restaurants are trying to get it to be a permanent basis with more standards, of course, because they're all kind of thrown up there, but still permanent. There's a pretty loud voice that's against them and wants to tear all them down. It appears to be getting traction with several supervisors, including ours. So anyway, if anyone is pro or con it, whichever one, there is a public comment happening on June 7th. I think Albert, you maybe even sent it out, I think maybe.
Ben Blyman, right? He's been putting that out there. Yeah.
Yep.
So I can, if you forward that. I saw the email. I can definitely spread it and blast it out to everybody on a BCC, just to hopefully get some people to come in and comment. But yes, I did see that. I can't imagine who's against it. I can't imagine Gordon Marr's against it.
Yeah. I don't think we have time to get in all this, but it's a way for politicians to push something forward so they don't have to make decisions, and then the decisions are made. It's a bit more complex because essentially it goes away when the emergency order, 60 days after emergency order is removed. That's the law. So if they try to kick the can down the road, there's not really a choice. It's just going to disappear.
Okay.
That's kind of the red tape behind it all. And so there are like, some different groups about ADA compliance, which is fine. I mean, there should be ADA compliance, and different groups about how it parking and also how it changes the face of the city and it looks ugly and blah, 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 and all these different things, safety and all these things. And they're loud, and there's a few supervisors who are kind of moving towards their side, including Gordon Marr. So kicking the can down the road is kind of like killing it in a way. And that's that's the hidden fact behind all of that.
Okay.
Yep.
Noted. I think that for my own opinion, I think that the shared spaces are great. I mean, yeah, we're losing some parking, but at the same time, the merchants get more real estate. I like the fact that everyone lights up their tiki lights everywhere, and it makes the city look so much more festive. It makes us feel a little bit European and dining and so forth. And
yeah, I mean, there needs to be some structure around the ADA. There needs to be some structure around safety. Like those things need to happen, but those can happen. Doesn't mean they should kill it because of those issues. They should spend some time and tell us what we need to do, and we'll do it.
Absolutely. And this is one of the things that I think that comes out of this COVID experience that's an efficiency is that they shot from the hip for once instead of reviewing things ad nauseum. And so I'd like to have the city move faster on a lot of things regarding to small businesses because as we all well know, getting those darn permits, paying all those darn fees. I don't know if you saw the article a couple of days ago about a poor guy that tried to open an ice cream shop on Valencia Street, blew $200,000 and never got anywhere. Just ultimately packed up and left. And it was a Korean fellow, I think. But yeah, that just, I can't imagine spending that kind of money and not even be able to open a little ice cream shop. So yes, there's too much red tape. And what we saw here was the city shooting by the hip for once. And we should retain some of that flexibility and adaptiveness that the city has kind of practiced a little bit now. And yeah, let's let our supervisors know. Okay. Thank you all.
Thanks.
It was a good fight. I'm glad that we have maybe a little bit more of an ally in Jeff Tumlin, and we can do better on segment B. Okay. All right. Closing the meeting. I'm adjourning. So thank you all and good night.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Nice
Take
to see
care.
everyone too.
Good night, everyone.
Bye now.